Hey guys, welcome back to another Warframe video, where today we are going to be looking at the frames within Warframe that are capable of clearing maps, either for defense missions, SO, normal Sanctuary Onslaught, whatever. They can be used to just clear swathes of enemies all in one go with just their abilities, no weapons needed. And yeah, there's quite a few of them in the game now, so I thought what I'd do, rather than go through all of them, I've taken out 10 of the ones that I tend to use or I have used in the past, and we're going to go through them. And the way that we're going to just look at them, because obviously there's quite a lot to get through, I'm going to chapter this hopefully frame by frame. We'll have a look at the build, and then we'll jump into probably just normal Sanctuary Onslaught and demonstrate their clearing power and how they work. So yeah, we'll start off, and then any extras maybe that we don't cover, I'll give honourable mentions to at the end or whatever. There are genuinely loads, and you can actually gear most frames in the game now to be able to do something along these lines, where you just clear the map. So yeah, let's have a look. First of all, we're going to start with my old faithful Vault. If we take a look at his build right here, you don't obviously have to achieve this build entirely, but basically you just want quite a lot of range, quite a lot of strength, and a decent amount of duration. It doesn't matter if you have too much or, you know, just under 100%, whatever. A bit of duration is probably needed on Vault, because what that does is it allows for the chaining effect from your discharge, your fourth ability, to ricochet off nearby enemies. Now, what you could also do for this build is you could throw on something like Rhino's Roar to increase your damage even further. But I'm going to be running these builds without any kind of helmet ability, because, you know, I just want to show you the raw power of each build, basically. And then, yeah, you can throw on things like Molt Vigor as well to get extra ability strength after doing an operator ability. And speaking of operator abilities, we also have Zanuricon. So Zanuric, when you have Wellspring and Hardened Wellspring, we're going to get another 20% ability strength on top of that. So just bear that in mind as well. That's also going to be giving our energy pool a bit of a boost as well. So let's go ahead and hop into Sanctuary Onslaught with Volt and see how he performs. Alright guys, so I've got this on public. I'm not sure if it affects the spawn rates at all, but, you know, whatever. These guys are going to be happy, hopefully. So we've got Corpus, a very good faction for Volt to go against, bar the Nullifiers. We can go ahead and activate our Zanuric. We've also got a Mirage in here. Let's see if we can out-compete her. So you can see, each time we use his fourth ability, we get a bit of chaining. There we go. And yeah, that's basically how Volt works. You don't want to use it too often, because you want enemies to respawn and then chain to others again. So, you know, take your time doing it. Volt's fourth is very good against factions like Corpus because of its obviously electrical damage, so it can deal additional damage to machinery and also shields. So that's one thing to note. And yeah, we can just keep this rolling. So I'll finish this up. This is Volt. And then we'll move on to the next frame on our list. Okay guys, so the next frame on the list is Mirage. This is an explosive Legiman build. Again, if we take a look at the build, we are running our Molt Vigor and Energize, along with a decent amount of strength and a decent amount of range. Duration does not matter at all on this, so don't worry about, you know, don't worry about duration too much. It's more about range and strength. Again, if you wanted to put Former on this to make it a bit more potent, then by all means do so. But this should serve the purpose just fine. You could obviously put on Aura Former if you really wanted to. But, you know, we're not going to do that. So, yeah. Once again, we don't have Roar on. I do have Eclipse on, but that was just for a different build I was trying out. We're not actually going to use that. It doesn't affect our ability damage whatsoever. And then again, we're going to be using Zanuric. So, let's hop into Sanctuary Onslaught and give this one a go. Okay, so Mirage's Explosive Legiman does take a while to get going, as it requires drops on the floor to convert, obviously, to little bombs. So it's going to be a while before it kind of kicks off. But we're going to basically just keep casting our second ability. And after a while, yeah, we should start to see some detonations going off. We'll use our weapon to try and speed the process along a bit. But there we go. Now, Mirage is actually probably one of the better frames for clearing maps like this, because she can take out enemies kind of as soon as they spawn in, because her mines are obviously already there when they spawn. And she is pretty good against every faction, because her mines actually do random damage. So either heat, cold, toxin, or electric. So she can deal damage against any faction pretty well. And her upkeep, her ability upkeep is much less. Her second ability only uses 50 energy per cast at 100% efficiency. So you can spam it much more often. It uses much less energy. And yeah, we can keep going like this forever, really. And as you can see, we're getting plenty of kills around the map. Our teammates are enjoying it. This is what you call leeching right here, but when you get in a situation like this where you have a map clearer and you're just unable to get kills anyway because the enemies just die instantly, then this is fully acceptable in my opinion. Usually when someone is doing this, they're either farming for like Lato parts or Brat and Vandal parts, or even just focus. So yeah, that's Mirage. Let's move on to the next frame. Alright guys, so the next frame on our list we're going to look at is Equinox. Equinox is quite a popular frame right now, especially in conjunction with Glaive Prime. If anyone wonders why the Glaive ribbons are so expensive right now, it's kind of these interactions that are causing that. So essentially, Equinox Prime's method of clearing works on her fourth ability. So essentially it stacks up damage from your weapons or from how much damage you do enemies into a little pool, and then you can reactivate your fourth to detonate and clear enemies in the particular area. So yeah, this is kind of the build that I'm working with. You don't need too much strength on this build. I'm running Peaceful Provocation for a bit more strength, but you know, Molt Vigor, all the usual stuff basically. This is a Zero Former build again, so do bear that in mind. You can improve these builds greatly if you want to, but since I'm on my Warframe Done Efficiently playthrough, I haven't got around to forming these frames yet, so yeah, you'll just have to bear with me. I'm just kind of demonstrating how you can use them to clear the maps. So this is the build we're running. We're going to jump into the Sanctuary Onslaught again and see it in action. Alright guys, so make sure you're in day form. That's without the frills. I'm going to throw on my third ability for that Peaceful Provocation buff. I should have probably used my my operator first here, actually. Let's try that again. And then, yeah, you kind of just want to run around, do some damage once you've activated your fourth. Although, with this particular build, the enemies will probably just die to bleed procs, as you can see. But let's kind of get to the center of the map. We can use our fourth to detonate. Few kills there. But yeah, you can see we are, in fact, getting quite a few kills. We are against Infested, so they're quite squishy and much more vulnerable to slash damage. But in the top right-hand corner, you can see a stacking pool of damage. You can see we're up to like 28k now. Equinox can also be used to deal damage to inanimate objects as well, which makes her a really viable choice for hive missions, where you have to, you know, take out the tumor nodes around a hive. She can be used to destroy those instantly, so she's a really good pick for that. But you can see we're already up to 163 kills, 170, 174, just from wandering around with this build a bit. It's very hands-off, this particular clearing method. But yeah, we'll finish this off, and then we'll move on to the next frame. Alright guys, so next up on our list is Mag. Now Mag is an interesting one because she actually has two methods of map clearing. We're only going to be focusing on one, which is by use of her fourth ability. However, you can also use her third ability, Polarize, to kill enemies with armor quite efficiently. And this works for very high level enemies as well, because the more armor they have, the higher the damage output from this. So do bear that in mind when you're thinking about using Mag. There is a build you can use for her Polarize ability to clear enemies, but it will only work on those with shields or armor. doesn't really work too well against infested, so we're going to avoid it for this particular test. I'm on my main account now, so I am lacking a few things here. For example, I do not have Molt Vigor on this account. It's been a long while since I've played on this account, so there are quite a few things missing. But this is the kind of build that you want. It's a very spammy build, and we're running Fracturing Crush because it's going to remove the armor of the enemies that we're using it against and allow us to do more damage, basically. So yeah, that's the build. Again, just revolving around range and strength. Duration is not required for the 4th ability build. However, if you're going for the 3rd ability build, it does scale off of duration and not range. So do bear that in mind when you're doing this. When you're doing a build for the 3rd ability, it's duration, not range, similar to how Nova's 4th ability works. But let's jump into a Sanctuary Onslaught and have a look at it in action. Alright, so yeah, we're just going to hit 4. We can use our 4th ability again. As you can see, it is very spammy. And you can do it very quickly with cast speed. It's worth noting as well that Mag also has an Arcane Helmet, which will increase her range further. Oh, we're competing with a Saryn, it seems. And yeah, basically, guys, we just keep going like this forever. We are getting kills on the board, although, like I said, we're competing with a Saryn and a few other things. Not the best tile set in the world either. I actually find Mag to be better against Grineer and Infested, believe it or not, rather than Corpus. Which is kind of counterintuitive, but there we go. So yeah, that's Mag, guys. And you can just keep doing this over and over. Yeah. Let's see what's on our list next. Okay guys, so the next frame we're going to be looking at is Oberon. Oberon is one that not a lot of people use, but he is still viable for clearing maps. So yeah, this is what we're going to be using on Oberon, very similar to the Mag build. Based on his 4th, you can use his 2nd ability to clear enemies as well, but it's a bit of a hassle and it doesn't have the same kind of range as our 4th ability does. And to be honest, our 4th ability doesn't have that great a range either. 42 meters for a clearing build isn't great. You want kind of 50 meters plus. But it should do the trick just fine. So yeah, it also reduces armor by itself. We don't need to add an augment mod like we did with Mag, where we had Fracturing Crush. This simply just does reduce armor as we go. So it should be perfectly good against Grineer units infested and also the Corpus. So yeah. Again, range, bit of strength, and lots of efficiency for spamming our 4th ability. So let's swap over to Zanurik. I don't realise I had it on Unairu. And then let's hop into a Sanctuary Onslaught and see it in action. Alright, let's see. We've only got 1 minute and 50 left, but there we go. You can see we're getting plenty of kills here. Oberon's damage is actually quite a bit higher than most of the other clearing frames in terms of how much you actually just get, like, straight off the bat. No kind of charging required. And yeah, we can just do this all day, I guess. You can see that the range does become an issue, but not for long. You can move around a bit. Try and cover the map a bit better. We're already up to 116 kills, so yeah. And that's Oberon, guys, yeah. Not too bad. Not the best in the world either, though. So let's move on to the next frame. Okay, guys, so the next frame we're looking at is Banshee. Now, for Banshee, I'm going to be using a Resonating Quake build with the Augment mod. You can use it without it, and it will do the job just as well, probably, but I prefer using the spammy build for Soundquake here. Now, you can see that our range is actually 92.75 meters, which is a lot, but since Resonating Quake has kind of a... what do you call it? The damage from it goes down as the wave goes out. So the more range we have, the better the damage will be, you know, closer to the center of the circle, which is further away, essentially. So that's why we've got a decent amount of range on here. Again, 0 Former on this. You can make this much better. All of these builds much better if you were to invest Former into them, so that you can up your strength, your efficiency, your range, whatever. Go ahead and invest into them. But yeah, let's drop into Sanctuary Onslaught and take a look. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and start. Actually, we can use our first ability here. Like so. And you can see here, enemies be dying. I think we're battling with Johnny on this one. But yeah, you know, if you have like Molt Vigor as well and you're doing this, you'll do a lot more damage. So yeah, let's move on to the next frame now, guys. Alright guys, so the next frame on our list is Ember. Now Ember is actually the first frame here that has a directed clear. So not a case of just standing still, hitting 4, there's a big circle around us and enemies die. Ember's 4th ability, and has done for a while now, is a directed ability where in the direction you're looking, it will cast fireballs and kill enemies on a basis of energy used per kill. So let's take a look at the build. Slightly less range. You can see here that we're on an explosion radius of 47.5 meters, so that's still decent. And it does quite a bit of damage, and it's heat damage and impact damage. So you're going to be doing damage against pretty much every faction. You could up the range even and drop the strength. You could put overextended on if you want, because a lot of the time you will have enough damage either way to wipe out the enemies. It shouldn't be a problem for you, basically. So yeah, without further ado, let's give it a test run and see how we do in Sanctuary Onslaught. Alright, let's go ahead and use that. So you can kind of see we can just go side to side. And it's actually very effective, other than the fact that we are kind of losing quite a lot of energy. But because it's energy used per like enemy hit, you actually tend not to run out. You can just spam it as much as you want, and the explosion radius from the impact of the fireballs will kill enemies next to those hits. So you can just keep going forever if you want. Or you can look for energy on the ground. It's not a big deal. And yeah, I can't aim. That's a thing. We'll just keep going, guys, and then we'll move on to the next one. Alright, guys, so the next frame we're going to be looking at is Gara, and Gara is a bit of a different one, actually. She's quite an interesting frame to clear maps with. It works around her 4th ability and her 1st ability, and I want to put it out there right now that this build probably needs a bit more attention than the one I'm going to be showing, and you probably want to put some more Former on it. However, this one should serve to actually demonstrate that, you know, it is possible to clear maps with her. So yeah, let's take a look. We've basically got a bit of range, bit of strength, and a bit of efficiency, and then we're trying to keep our duration around the 102% mark. Yeah, it's another kind of spam your 4th ability, let it expand, and then we're going to use our 1st ability to detonate it and thereby dealing damage, explosion damage. Now you can see the max radius here being 21.16 meters, but the max range you're actually going to be dealing damage is the max radius plus the explosion range, because it's calculated from the edge of the perimeter of Mass Vitrify. So do bear that in mind. Again, would recommend putting a bit more into this if you want it to work properly, but this should serve the purpose of actually demonstrating that it can clear maps. So let's jump into a Sanctuary Onslaught and see how it does. Seems like there's a bit of lag in this lobby, but hopefully we can still demonstrate that this works. There we go. So we are getting a few kills, not a whole lot. Like I said, this build does require a bit more input. And it's also worth knowing that you need to be kind of on the same level as the enemies that you are killing. As you can see there, the ones on the bottom level got killed. But we had quite a few on that top level that weren't getting killed. So yeah, bear that in mind when you're doing this. There we go. So as you can see, we've now got competition from a Mirage, I guess. Oh no, a Mag, never mind. So yeah, hopefully that demonstrated that it actually works. But yeah, we'll quickly move on to the next frame in our list. Alright guys, so 9th frame we're going to be looking at today is Saryn. Now once again, this build can be vastly improved. So if you take a look here, you basically want to build a bit of a mix between range, strength, and duration. Reason being is that the duration is going to prevent Saryn's spores, which is what we're going to be using for this particular clear. You can just use Miasma. As you can see, the radius of Miasma is 53 meters, and it does give damage per second. But the spores, they do help quite a bit, especially if you're going against Grineer units, as they can take down armor. They do give corrosive damage, so definitely worth having up. Doing a combination of spores and Miasma is going to help you deal out quite a bit of damage. And this is one of the builds that I would highly recommend for kind of end game content as well, because Saryn's spores just build up and build up and build up until they kill the enemy. You know, there's no limit to them. They can do like 2,000 damage per second or more. So yeah, it's definitely a good tool. And then Miasma obviously applies a viral proc, so it will double the damage being dealt essentially, or it will, you know, make the enemies more vulnerable to damage. So yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll test this in action, and then we'll get onto our last frame we're going to look at today. Alright guys, so I've hopped into Elite Sanctuary Onslaught for this particular one, since I think it will better demonstrate the kind of damage output that you can do with this. And you can see in the bottom right there are spores. So that's going to keep building and building up whilst we have enemies infected. And we're going to kind of just weave in Miasma every now and then. Like so. And yeah, we're really dishing out some damage. We're up to 146 kills already. It is infested, so higher KPS in this particular instance. Now we've got to wait for our cooldown here. But yeah, that counter's just going to keep going up and up and up. And it will get to the point kind of where enemies just spawn and die. So we might have to recast it at some point. But I think we're alright for now. So yeah, you can kind of just keep this going. 402 kills. We're up to 1,600 damage per second on spawn. You can see those ticks going off right there. We're going to lose it, so I'm going to recast now. And the damage from our spores is actually much more effective against armored targets, since corrosive damage deals additional damage to them. But yeah, I think that'll do for now. Let's move on to the final frame we're looking at. Alright guys, so I feel like I can't end this video without mentioning Hildryn Prime, as she's been released very recently, and there is a build that can kind of do map clear, so I thought we'd go into it. I'm sure you guys have probably seen these kinds of synergies between abilities elsewhere on YouTube and Twitch and whatever, but yeah, I didn't think I could really finish the video without mentioning her. So yeah, let's jump into it. I do want to point out that this build, again, I've only put one former on this, but if you wanted to get this to the point where it actually does a lot of damage, you will need to invest in this one quite heavily. Now, Hildryn doesn't have energy, as you can see. She uses her shield to cast her abilities. And one thing that she suffers on, as opposed to the other frames we've looked at, is range. So generally speaking, her range is pretty low. So we're going to have to be moving around a fair bit during this. But yeah, we're going to be basically having Haven on all the time. That's going to drain shields, give us some damage per second from radiation damage. You can see the radius on that is 39.75 meters. So it is quite far, but again, it's not really... it doesn't do the damage that you kind of want it to, really. But when we pair it with Pillage, this will provide... it will do armor strip, so it drains 55% of shield or 55% of armor. Now, if you had your build completely min-maxed here, you would be able to strip 100% in one go. So, you know, we're going to have to use 2 pillages in order to fully strip an enemy. And you can see the radius there, 21.2 meters. So there is an initial pulse radius, and then the radius you'll see when we actually come to use it, it kind of expands and then retracts again. So it's actually a lot further than you might think this kind of ability expands to. And this is going to be very important as well for keeping our shields up. So we're going to be pillaging a percentage of enemy shields. And it's going to cost us shields to charge it in the first place, to actually use it. So this is going to be very important in maintaining our DPS as we go. But generally speaking, I would say this build lacks where the other builds, you know, excel in defense-style missions. We're also going to be using Arcane Aegis instead of Energize, but I would recommend probably going Molt Efficiency if you have it here, just for a bit of extra duration. And also, if you're using Helmet, then go ahead and put Roar on here, as that's going to increase your damage of Pillage quite significantly. Definitely worth having on. But yeah, other than that, I think we just kind of get into it, demonstrate the concept. Again, this is going to be quite slow in terms of kills per second or kills per minute. So bear that in mind. Again, this is a very cheap build for what I want it to do. So yeah, we're not going to get the full effect from this, but let's just have a look at it as a bit of a laugh. So I forgot to mention, this build really doesn't work all that well against infested units, since they tend not to have any armor or shield. So hopefully when we come in here... Oh good, we got Corpus. Alright, so we'll go ahead. Oh, we've got competition, it seems. I'm not sure how well I'm going to be able to demonstrate this with competition. But we'll go ahead and activate our third ability, and then start using our second. You can see we are getting some kills here and there, but I think this Volt is going to out DPS us significantly. But you can see our kills are going up even with this Volt doing his thing. 44. 56. So, you know, we are getting kills pretty quickly. 74. So we're going to be on for maybe about 100 kills per minute here in this particular tile set, and against these Corpus units. 93. And yeah, we can just kind of keep doing this forever. It should basically maintain itself, because our shields should never go down because of how much we get back from using Pillage. As you can see. 120. We are actually catching up. We're catching up to the Volt, guys. It's all good. I think maybe the Volt's actually stopped, so we can actually get an indication here of how fast we're doing this now. Okay, he used it again, I think. Yeah, we are still competing, but nevertheless, we are actually getting a fair few kills here. So yeah, I think what we'll do, guys, I'll finish up this this little mission here, and then we'll round out the video, I think. Alright, guys, so like I said, we're gonna end the video here. We've gone through our kind of top 10, and there are a few other frames out there that you can easily use to clear maps. Frames like Frost, Neja, even Hildryn you could use if you wanted to. There are so many choices now in the game. It's really up to you and what you're comfortable using for clearing out maps, defense missions, SO, whatever. It's up to you. And if there's a particular frame that I haven't gone into detail on in this video, then, you know, I'm sure there's other videos out there on YouTube, but if you're struggling to find one, then do feel free to leave a comment down below if you'd maybe like to see a makeshift build for a frame that you like using that can be used to clearing a map, or used to clear a map, sorry, then I'd be more than happy to have a look at those. But yeah. Other than that, if you guys have any kind of suggestions or ways you improve these builds, obviously, like I said, I haven't invested any kind of former or really time into any of these builds that you've seen today, other than this Hildryn one, a tiny bit at the end there. So they can be improved on greatly, but if you guys have any tips or tricks that you like to use on any of these builds, then do let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to read through them. But otherwise, guys, I will end the video there. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. I'll see you later, guys.